Let's welcome Candon Murphy. She's a lead green associate and an associate member of the IIDA. She's at MG2 out in Seattle, and she's the design lab manager and materials and sustainability specialist for the firm. Welcome, Candon.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here today.
Great. Well, we're going to talk about the MG2 Sustainable Materials Evaluation System that you were intimately involved in helping to develop. Give us some background. When did this get started? What prompted it? Why did you do it? And where are we at this point?
Wonderful. Yeah, so I've joined MG2 just about 5 years ago now, and I had been closely connected at previous employers with some of the people that worked here, and it was kind of a goal for the firm to move into more of a sustainable pathway upon my arrival. So one of the goals of the firm was to just simply create a digital database of vendors to be more accessible to everyone in a digital space rather than just being in a physical space, and also to give access to all of our offices to the same resources. So when we were beginning to look at that, I had been involved in a couple of years before that in kind of the inception and creation of mindful materials. And that's something that we'll touch on a little bit later in this conversation, I'm sure. But what kind of mindful materials idea is to really just have a database of transparency so we can, as designers, make more informed decisions earlier on. And so this is where the idea of this kind of rating system that was developed for our internal database came from, is how can we supply our design teams with more transparency rather than just giving them a company name and like a type of product. So that's it, essentially in a nutshell what it does.
Yeah. What kind of factors? What is this based on? What are you using? What are the important ingredients in this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the really kind of important ingredients really are the transparency. So what we're measuring is not necessarily every single individual product that a company offers. That is a huge undertaking that is, impossible for even like a small team of people to do. But really what it supplies is what documentation does this manufacturer have available as a general rule. So many of us in the industry know, if you're looking at sustainable products, that just because a manufacturer has like one very sustainable product, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of them are. So what we're looking for are kind of generalizations across the board. So we're looking at, does the supplier test VOCs, for example? Does the supplier show where all of their manufacturing locations are? Does the supplier, do BIFMA testing if they're doing furniture? Does the supplier have any ISO certifications for their manufacturing processes that are leading sustainable or in ethical business practices? Mm-hmm. And so on and so forth. It goes through kind of all the items that maybe that product category would take into consideration for sustainability.
Yeah, BIFMA is, if I remember, building industry manufacturers. No, what is it? What is BIFMA again?
Building Industry Furniture Manufacturers Association, I believe.
Yeah,
if I got that acronym right. So
right.
Pardon me, BIFMA, if I messed that up.
But you're also looking at environmental product declarations, health product declarations, embodied carbon, all those kinds of things, right?
Exactly, yeah. EPDs, HPDs, any disclosure on any other kind of like standard certification. So like floor score, cradle to cradle, CRI, Green Label Plus. Oh my gosh, there's so many. I could go on and on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to put a list up of some of them. You got ILFI, red list, if you will, USGBC stuff, Carbon mm-hmm. Leadership Forum, Mindful Materials, the Well Building Institute, et cetera. So you're using all of those to create factors and for this program. These are also based on certain key, shall we say, larger questions of things like human health and ethical manufacturing and so forth, right? I mean, that's you're looking at those things.
Exactly. When we think about sustainability, there's so many different lenses that we can look through. So, and that is dependent what is prioritized, what in my personal experience, it depends on what either the client or the design team prioritizes, and even different building rating systems prioritize different things. So like, for example, LEED building certification prioritizes different items than the WELL building certification does. So we have, various clients that have different priorities. So really our kind of main factors of what we're looking at when we're thinking about sustainability is human health. Does it contain any chemicals of concern that would affect any, human health or functioning? Often it's reproductive systems or carcinogens. Environmental health, is this a persistent chemical in the environment? Does it break down? Is it here forever? Embodied carbon, which a lot of us probably have been kind of familiar. This is a conversation that's coming up so much right now. It's been especially hot topic recently, and that's
Right.
What's the carbon footprint of that material? But then we also look at things like ethical manufacturing and environmental justice. Is the community, or is the company treating the community fairly? Are they putting any pollutants into the environment? And also we look at regional manufacturing very frequently because we do prefer to utilize items that are made within the region of the project. And that takes into all of these accounts. This is, creating more work for people locally in different, areas or jurisdictions. It's also cutting down carbon footprint on transportation. We can control, custom items more closely, et cetera.
Okay. And you actually in your studio, you actually color code all the products. Is that how does that work?
Yeah, so the color coding is a very simple red, yellow, green system. We have kind of figured out that especially that's helpful to young design staff that's just kind of learning about sustainability, to give them kind of an easy at a glance way to tell these. So this is color coded within the digital database and also within the physical space. And what it is essentially, every kind of product sector with all of the manufacturers that we use, those manufacturers are kind of judged against each other. So I'm going to use carpet as a really specific example here. In the carpet manufacturing world, we have, a handful of major manufacturers that we work with frequently and that our clients have vendor partnerships with already. The carpet world is pretty open in communication with each other. This is a way to compete. Like when a carpet manufacturer comes out with a new sustainability method, the other carpet manufacturers want this too. So we essentially just measure that transparency and the testing method against each other, and it's a very simple third rating. So the top third of the sustainability and transparency documentation will get a green label, the middle third will get a yellow, and the bottom third will receive a red. So this is an ever adjusting system that does not stay stagnant. Mm-hmm. So as new technology comes out, we reevaluate, the color codes get redistributed. I would like to make a very specific note here. The red does not mean that this company is bad. And all of the companies that we work with, the local vendors and reps, and sometimes even regionals and VPs, understand that we're not saying like don't use it because it's red. We're just saying that there's other manufacturers in this particular product category that have a higher level of sustainability and transparency. And this is a part of our advocacy as well. The door is never shut to anyone. We always offer to have the conversation of, saying to a manufacturer, if they're like, oh, why do we have a red label? Then, I will explain to them, well, these companies offer this, which your company doesn't currently offer. And we really encourage you to, move in that direction in order to, elevate your rating here.
Everybody else has got an EPD and you don't.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
You have something called the internal vendor database too for what's that?
Yeah, so that is what I kind of touched on a moment ago about we have a digital space for that as well. And the internal database is essentially kind of a very complicated giant spreadsheet that's searchable in our internal website, so in our intranet. And that's accessible to anyone within the firm, where they can go and search by manufacturer type. So if they're looking for, say, a wall covering, there's a whole section on wall coverings, and then they're color coded within that. Um, and it includes all kinds of information. So it'll include, like, our local contact if somebody needs samples or needs to work on sales. It includes the actual manufacturing website link, and it will include different information on transparency. So we at MG2 have recently signed the AIA 2030 Challenge, which is reporting to the AIA about sustainability methods, specifically with embodied carbon and operating energy. But MG2, we've added a couple other personal goals within that we as a firm are working on. And one of those is a material goal. So we're encouraging designers to look at materials more closely. And so we give some leads into transparency in that database.
So this database gives them an easier way to source those products. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are clients saying? Are you getting business as a result of this? Is this something that clients are accepting?
Absolutely. The clients really enjoy it with the color coding as well. Because, as I mentioned before, this is something that if you don't have a ton of education on the subject yet, it can be, overwhelming and confusing and like so much to learn. So when we have a client that maybe doesn't know about all of these transparency labels or what these necessarily the details of these green building certifications, it really helps them to make more informed decisions. So there's different ways that we offer this. So we have clients into our physical space. They love coming in, especially since we've started slowly reopening. They can see the color codes on the shelves. They enjoy, pulling things. The other way that we do it in a more digital space, if they're not able to come in, is we'll take, just a standard finish legend, and one of the design team, be it myself or my intern or someone else, will actually go through and color code the finish legend to deliver to the client. And we'll put little notes in the finish legend about, if there is a yellow or a red product in there, like what they could specify to bring it up to like a green product. It gives them like, just like for like alternates. They really enjoy that. I would say I've got nothing but fantastic feedback on that process, because it gives a client who's extremely busy just a good way to look. Also, to be perfectly open, we have a lot of retail clients that are just starting to dip their toe in sustainability. And although we're getting to a point where sustainability isn't necessarily a huge cost add, we all know that our clients' bottom line is cost on a lot of things. And so sometimes these clients really want to prioritize, they want to be more sustainable, but maybe they can only afford, one product, like respecifying to a more sustainable product. Maybe they'll select, carpet, for example. And so this will give them a really good at a glance way to say, oh, you know what, like our carpet and our paints are yellows, but everything else is green. So let's focus on carpet this year. And like, maybe we'll focus on, respecifying other things next year.
Well, it sounds like it's a very thorough and comprehensive system that you've got in place, and it sounds like you're getting some traction with clients and prospects. That's great. You've been doing this for 5 years plus, 5 years at MG2, and before that you were working on similar concepts. What have you learned? What would you tell our audience about if they want to tackle something like this, or would you tell them, don't do it? It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but you don't need, my biggest advice always is you do not need to do this all at once. Sustainability is a marathon. It's not a race. I would say the biggest advice that I always give people that are working on physical spaces is start with like something that can make an impact, and research that one thing. So say you're a building, an architect or designer that works on multifamily residential. What's the largest product by volume that generally goes into a multi-residential space? It's usually carpet or LVT. That's the kind, in my personal experience, that's what it is. So let's focus on just the LVT. Find a couple really sustainable options for LVT. Put those on a database of your own. And then your next project, maybe research something else. Like, let's look at the GWB maybe for the next project, and let's find a good specification for that. So it doesn't need to be that you need to create a database for yourself all at once, but maybe look at some of the products that that you can have an impact on.
Okay.
Then you
Yeah.
start to build upon that knowledge.
That's great. That's excellent advice. Thank you. Well, Candon Murphy is a lead green associate and an associate member of IIDA. She's the design lab manager and materials and sustainability specialist at MG2, based in Seattle with offices elsewhere, and put those offices up. And thanks for your advice about your sustainable materials evaluation system at MG2.
Thank you so much, Robert. It was great chatting with you today.